Howdy, ladies and gentlemen of the Maroon Faithful, and to all you others tuned in of the Burnt Orange Persuasion. We want the water cooler back. Yes, after 12 years of not playing, Texas followed A&M to the SEC. And then put a bad taste in our mouth by beating us on our own turf, making it to the SEC championship game in the process in their first year, and claiming all wins over that water cooler with a single reply of scoreboard. Well, congrats. But while you were yapping about your rivalry with OU during this entire time as well, trying to get everyone to think that it was more meaningful, turns out the SEC championship game runs through the Lonestar Showdown. So last year, whichever team won would go to the big game. While Texas doesn't have that chance this year, A&M does. A little poke poke there, huh? Let's have a little fun. Win, and we are in. Lose, and it gets real complicated. I don't really think there's actually a chance. It's kind of an unfortunate situation having to go 12-0 to make it on our path. But either way, Texas will not go quietly into the night, I guarantee you. Any semblance of hope for them to make the college football playoff will fade the Saturday after Thanksgiving without a win. Rest assured. Now, my papa taught me not to underestimate my opponent. So, with all the fun aside, what I want to say is something that's related to the game that we just played against South Carolina. South Carolina, not a great team. Texas, obviously much better than South Carolina. But no matter what these stats turn out, no matter how everything happens, there is talent on that field. There's lots of talent on that field, and that was the big deal with South Carolina, was that no matter what we thought about that team, between Sellers, between Harbor, between Stewart on the defensive side of the ball, there's NFL talent on that team, and there's even more on Texas. So this team is capable of winning any game, and it's going to be vital that A&M understands this if they want to come away with that win. So for this preview, I've got a treat. Hopefully you're going to like this. I was on sabbatical last year, so I didn't get to give a preview for the first year, but here we are now, and I can't wait. I've been waiting for this for a long time. I wanted to do it with yours, but we'll go ahead and do it with Arch, and that's going to be the position group battle. Okay? Going to do a position group battle. Going to go position by position, line them up, and I'm going to give you my thoughts on which one I would take. Okay? Along the way, I'm going to throw in a couple of blind resumes for you to take a look at and see what's going on, which one you take, which one you wouldn't, and we'll see how things come out in the wash. Now, I'm obviously coming from one side, so I am going to try and keep this as data driven as possible so I can be as unbiased as I can. I challenge the Longhorns to come with it. Come with it. See if you can poke any holes in what I got here on this one. Love to have it for you. So we are going to start off with a banger. All right. First blind resume test up. Here we go. Take a look at them. Now I haven't looked at these real close myself, so I'm gonna react to them just kind of along with you. All right. So you got side by side. Which one is which? This is going to be one is going to be Arch Manning. The other one's going to be Marcel Reed. So you've got both playing 10 games. One's got 291 attempts. The other's got 311. One has 179 completions, 195. Okay, not too big a deal. Completion percentage, 61.5 for one, 62.7 for the other. Okay, we got a little one inch ahead here, just a little bit. But when you look at the yards, 2,600 plus to 2,300. 7.8 yards per attempt to 9, 22 TDs to 19, 7 INTs to 8. Now, that's a little bit of a knock there, but for me right now, if I'm going off the first line, I'm thinking, I got 2,600 yards to 23 and 9 yards per attempt to 7.6 with 22 TDs. I'm really feeling like this definitely goes to the left side first, right? what is that, 263 yards per game to 237. So another pretty clear indicator there. I'm not too worried about attempts per game. But if anything were left open on this one, getting down to the rushing line, we got 76 attempts for one, 74 for the other. So they're pretty much dead even, but 391 total yards rushing for whoever's on the left and 186 for whoever's on the right. 5 yards per carry on the left and 2.5 on the right. 6 TDs apiece rushing, and one's doing pretty much double the yards per game. All right. The rest of the categories, total offense is at least something to kind of take into account, but we're really just looking at passing and rushing combined, right? Maybe a few other miscellaneous statistics that kind of could get put in there. And all-purpose yards, nothing really to note there. It looks like just a regurgitation of rushing. So which one would you take? Which one would you take? If I'm going to go for one, I'm going for the left one, aren't you? Who do you think the left one is? Who do you think the left one is? Here's an interesting little thought while you're trying to figure this up on who is who. There's been a lot made about, hey, this 10th week cupcake game. And I'm just going to kind of get you fired up a little bit on this one. Why not? But whichever one of these is Marcel Reed, maybe he's the one on the right, maybe he's the one on the left, but don't you think he's probably getting ready to pad his stats if he's the one on the right? He's playing Samford this weekend. Should blow them up, right? What if he's the one on the left and he's already kind of leading ahead and he's getting ready to play Samford? So he's really getting, he's going to really start rolling. It's going to make that look even a little bit more funny, right? Because Texas has already played all 3 of their cupcakes, right? They went Ohio State, San Jose, I think, and then it was UTEP, and then Sam Houston. Meanwhile, A&M's going, UTSA, Utah State, then Notre Dame, I think, and then Florida. If I've got those in and out of order, I'm not exactly sure. So while you were playing your 4th game, we were already into SEC play, right? Right? Anything need to be said about that? That's kind of interesting, don't you think? Auburn was our 4th game. So we jumped into Auburn right during the 4th game. Do you think if you had played Mississippi State your 4th game that you would have won that game? Hey, not trying to fire too many shots, just trying to keep it real here. I told you I'm not going to be biased, but we got some sort of hang up about this 10th week cupcake game. So we might want to talk about that 4th week cupcake game that if you had been into conference play, might not have worked out the way you wanted it. We could be looking at a 4th loss already. So, hey, that's neither here nor there. So the reveal. Now, one extra thing to note is that Arch is playing Arkansas this next weekend, and whereas that's not a cupcake in the definitely in the traditional sense, the defense is definitely allowing a lot. Okay, that was part of our preview as well when we did that. Defense is allowing a lot, so it should probably pad his stats too. So whichever one he's in, actually I kind of think this point's in a wash. I just wanted to take the moment to kind of jab you a little bit about that whole Week 10 cupcake that you think is such a big deal, but we don't really think about that Week 4 cupcake situation. So, hey, we're here to have some fun, aren't we? And you Longhorns are already enjoying yourself, right? So good. Marcel Reed's on the left. So position battle group number 1, if you found yourself picking the left side one, then you picked A&M. So first position group goes to A&M. Lovely. 1-0. Now, running backs. This is a fun one. Running backs. A&M, 28th in rushing, 190 yards per game, 4.9 yards per carry. Texas, rushing game, struggling this year, 103rd in the nation in rushing, 124 yards per game. You're just about 76 yards short here, 66 yards short, I think. And 3.7 yards per carry. So pretty significant difference in just going off production. So production, if I'm going off of production, I'm going to A&M right off the bat. I mean, just with these numbers, how would you not? But I'm not going to leave it there, of course, right? There's more to each one of these picks than just that. But I want a starting point. right? I want a starting point. So I'm starting with A&M. Let's see if I can find something to change our mind. Now, something to note. Something to note. Texas has not had a bit of a consistent group this year. We've had C.J. Baxter, right? They've had Wisner, whatever, and there's just been kind of off and on. I think they really are looking to get some get one person in there and keep them in there. It's just not been the greatest of years for this. Uh, in the Georgia game, they ended up with 20. Excuse me, no, I think it was 39 rushing yards. So Wisner, his first carry was 16 yards. And then after that, he went 13 for 23 for the rest of the game. That's what gets you to the 103rd rushing yard ranking that they have. Not what they want. And it's going to be really difficult to divorce these numbers, Longhorns, right, from the offensive line. This has a lot to do and plays a lot into what the game plan looks like for Sark and how he's utilizing Arch and everything else at this point. And we'll get to more of that as we get to the other positions, but it's really kind of turning into it's an area they probably just can't count on at the moment, to be quite honest. I mean, it's going to be pretty tough to overcome A&M being 28th in the nation versus Texas 103. Okay, so but I have no problem dogpiling. So let's do that. Now, if we're going to do something where we might try and overtake one of those, we'd probably look at a few other things, although maybe not nearly as significant as the production, but maybe like blocking, and some of the other fine details, like just again, I mentioned yards per carry. Who does a good job of just simply falling forward and stuff like that, getting that extra yard or two. Well, and like I said, it's going to be tough to divorce this entire group from the offensive line, but I'll do it as best I can, although I'm going to mention this at the moment. So blocking. Texas is 83rd in sacks allowed. They're giving up 2 sacks per game. A&M is 11th, giving up 1 sack per game. Now, of course, that's not all on the running backs. It's not all on the offensive line either. I mean, but the running back has a blocking role at times, and it leads to some of the sacks that take place. Not all of them, but that's just going to be the general number. So if you're looking at that, you're looking for a reason. I'm not finding that reason there. Okay. Extra yards after contact. Texas does pretty good here. Texas does pretty good, but A&M's really good as well. You saw the Ryan Wingo catch versus Vandy when he housed it, first play of the game, right? I don't know, two or three missed tackles there. So lots of yards after the catch and after contact. But Wisner, he's 3.9 yards per carry himself. Baxter's 4.0. Owens is 5.8, and Moss, who we project to probably be back for the Texas game, is 5.6. So who's doing a better job of getting some of those extra yards? I mean, you're going to have to at least give it to A&M at this point, right? I mean, again, some of that, a lot of that is due to the offensive line, but what are you going to do, right? I mean, without getting super in depth on some of these stats, and just leaving those surface level ones, you going off that, you'd probably say A&M's doing a better job of doing that. So I don't have a whole big reason for this to take place. If I'm going to try again, I'm going to say who has got the deeper group. You could even factor in the QB, but you saw the difference between Marcel Reed and Arch Manning. 391 total yards to like 186 rushing. Reed had more touchdowns. No, they had the same amount of touchdowns. So there's not going to be a reason to factor that in so much that it overtakes. But listen to these numbers. I'm just going to run through their Texas rushing totals for you real quick. Game against Ohio State, lost by 7 points, right? 166 rushing yards. That's a good number. That's a really good number. Probably had a lot to do with keeping them in that game. San Jose 155, UTEP 226, Sam Houston State 264, Florida 52. Okay, Florida 52. OU 136. That's a win. Florida was the loss, right? OU was a big win. Kentucky 47, right? This was a game that came right down to the end. Texas pulled ahead, kept ahead, 47 yards. Mississippi State, big comeback needed for this game, 72 rushing yards. Quality win versus Vandy. They hit 100 on the nose. Georgia, like I told you last week, 23. And I think that number actually takes into account sack yards, so some negative rushing yards there. So again, look, I tried, y'all. I did my very best on this one, but between the possibility of Moss coming back, Owens is probably hitting his stride. We've got a week to kind of get some guys back healthy all the way because Owens is a little banged up. But Morrow has proved to be just one heck of a guy running, and EJ Smith's maybe the most physical back of the league. Okay, and if anything else comes to pass, Daniels, the fifth string running back at this point, I suppose, um, he actually stepped into the number one role last year when Owens and Moss were hurt. So, I mean, depth is just, it's almost an embarrassment of riches at this point, which I'm glad to say. And hopefully they will perform just like that whenever it comes to it. So, running back room, I got A&M. So, A&M, 2-0 right now. Argue with the wall if you think something different, okay? Or put it in the comments. You can tell me why all you want. Maybe you can convince me. I don't know. I doubt it. I have an open mind, but please do something. I tried to make this as exhaustive as possible. So if you're still feeling like you want to go with Texas running back room, uh, be my guest. That's not to say that I won't perform better on the Saturday we play, but right now, this is the battle. Okay, you got 10 games to go with. Who are you taking? Taking A&M. Offensive line. I mentioned this a little bit earlier. Their A&M is allowing 1 sack per game. It's giving up about 7.8 yards per sack. Texas is 2 sacks per game, 5.7 yards per sack. Total sacks, A&M is 10, Texas is 21. So, do the math, do it all you want, but I mean, the issue here is the total amount. 21 sacks given up by Texas, 10 by A&M. Last 3 games, Texas, 3 sacks allowed versus GA, 7 tackles for loss. Vandy, 0 sacks allowed by Texas, 1 tackle for loss. That's an elite line right there. Mississippi State, 5 sacks though, and then 12 tackles for loss. And you kind of see, as we did with the rushing totals, the games where you see these numbers start to sway and look really nice are the games that they won. Of course, they coincide. I mean, why wouldn't they coincide? But it just goes to show you, um, the type of team that they are playing when they play them and how the numbers work out. And this should be giving you a little idea of like what the game plan kind of needs to be, with the keys to winning for Texas, what they will be, and what A&M needs to attack or be able to do well so that they can possibly pull this one out for them. So, A&M, to compare, versus South Carolina, gave up 2 sacks and 4 tackles for loss. You might have thought it would be more considering what that first half looked like. Versus Mizzou, 1 sack, 5 tackles for loss. That was a really quality win. That was a heck of a defense. No matter what people were saying before that game, they were saying, "Hey, this is a good defense." Okay, A&M put up pretty good numbers versus their defense. LSU, playing LSU, 0 sacks, 2 TFLs. So that's an elite number as well. So who do you got? Who do you got? For me right now, it does feel probably the quarterback was kind of close by the numbers. It was kind of close. This offensive line feels a little bit closer by the numbers. I think, here's what I think. I'm going to have to go with A&M. And the reason why I'm going to go with A&M is not because I believe more so in their group. It's for a couple of, I don't know if you would call them intangibles or not, X's and O's kind of situation. Number one, A&M's got a lot of depth. We've rotated a lot of guys. I haven't seen that from Texas's group as much. There has been some. They have been doing some movement, but I'm talking about pure depth for A&M. So, I mean, there's 5 guys that can plug and play pretty much any position. Pretty much any position. We haven't had any significant injuries on that line this year. Knock on wood. Good Lord. Almost said that without doing it. So just from a pure depth standpoint, I think I would comfortably say A&M has the leg up there. Okay. But if I'm taking this a little bit to a second level, I think there's a reason why Texas is running the offense in the way that they're running their offense currently. I don't think that they are comfortable with um, trying to get Arch more than 2.5, 3 seconds on a drop back. I don't. The game is in large part built on um, throws behind the line of scrimmage, throws 2 to 3 yards past the line of scrimmage. It's built on yards after catch. It's built on yards after contact, making defenders miss. It's not built on 10 to 15 yard passes down the field. Now, I do think Arch is a decent thrower past 20 yards, but anything past that, and even those, it's hard to get him the time with this offensive line. And due to those two factors, at this time, I would take A&M. I would, and I think this will become more obvious. And in the game, I do think that's going to happen. If you go back and look at the other games, look what happened to Texas versus Georgia, especially in that fourth quarter. Look what A&M's done to teams again in the fourth quarter, third, fourth quarter. We're really wearing down some teams, and I think Texas got quite worn down in that Georgia game. So, because of these 3 points, I think are pretty significant to kind of break this what looks like to be a tie, kind of on paper, or at least a pretty close battle. With that said, I'll go A&M. If you think something different, put it in there. Let me hear it, man. This is a good one. I think's up for some argument. Maybe you don't like my points. Maybe you have a few other intangibles that you think you need to put in there and get in. Great, absolutely do that. This is a great spot for that. So, and maybe you'll like the next position group as well. Wide receivers, tight ends. Okay. And point out a couple things though to you. Okay, gonna come at these numbers from a little bit different direction this time. Craver, 20 yards per catch versus ranked AP opponents. Okay. KC, also 20 yards per catch versus ranked AP. All right. Wingo, 14.2 yards per catch versus ranked AP. Moore, 13.8 yards per catch versus ranked AP. This is, interestingly, PFF graded Mosley as the highest graded receiver versus Georgia. And I wonder if Texas fans are wondering or thinking like maybe that's gonna perhaps next year. I'm not sure what his eligibility situation looks like, to be quite honest, but he was what, 3 catches? I don't know how many targets he had. 3 catches for 66 yards versus Georgia, and Wingo was, I think, 9 catches for 62 yards, and of course he was graded better off of that. Um, is much more efficient off of that, and you kind of see that trend going back the last 2 or 3 games, and it looks like Mosley's kind of been coming on a little bit more. I think they wanted to get a bit more out of Livingstone, but um, Texas, y'all can correct me in the comments on this one as well. I think he's been a little hurt throughout the year, so I'm not sure where he's at. He definitely had a few targets. I want to say it was only like 2 versus Georgia. It wasn't much there. So watch out for Mosley. The big names are going to be talking about Wingo and more, but this is not trying to be that podcast. I definitely want to mention where I think this could go. Will be a very interesting battle to see how Elko schemes up to play their wide receivers when you have a running game from Texas that doesn't look to be very functional. And if we can go man and play downhill, load the box. Um, Excuse me, I'm completely backwards on that. If we can take care of this with some man coverage, and again still play downhill, because I think they're going to have more short throws. That's what the game plan's been typically. So very interesting piece there. A&M overall is 15th versus ranked AP opponents, 8.8 yards per attempt. Texas, 34th, not bad at all. and doing 6.9 yards per attempt. Like I said, this part of Texas's offense is built on the short play. And whereas this team, it I can't honestly put this in there as a differentiating factor. I don't think scheme should really be a piece of this, but the way that the offense seems to be so one dimensional, it's not just pass game oriented, but it seems to be more short game oriented. You look at the yards per catch being 6.9 versus A&M's 8.8. Almost everything's short. I think I've got my prescription and my keys later on I'll get to, and I've got my theories as to why some of that's taking place. But it's just kind of, it's there. It is what it is. Sarkisian's throwing and running plays that are just shorter, and so the yards per attempt are just not there the same way they are for A&M. A&M has quite a few quite many more explosive plays. Something like, I think it's 40 more plays of 10 plus yards. More, I mean, A&M's offense is way more explosive because we have been able to get our quarterback time to throw to get the ball to our wide receivers down the field. Ashton Bethel Roman has been coming on as of late. Our tight ends play a significant role. Borkacher and Theo and the occasional Black, but Craver and Casey are they are weapons. They are weapons, and I don't think it's really too debatable based off of those numbers which group you'd probably take in this one as well. Texas may have just a slight bit more depth, but I can't look you in the eye and say that. I really can't. A&M's got two receivers over 700 yards at this point. Texas not even really close to that. Now, all they need is to have two receivers that go off in one game. So this really means nothing when it comes to that. But when it comes to the battle, A&M's wide receivers and tight end group has to take this one as well. So correct me if I'm wrong. I think that's a clean sweep on offense for A&M. This is one of the best offenses we've had in a while. And I think if I would have done this last year, I probably would have given it to Texas the whole way. Offensive line with Kevin Banks, uh, Ewers, as much as I was skeptical about him. Looking back after this year, I think it's a no-brainer to say he was pretty good. And then the wide receiver group that they fielded last year, I think with Golden and Bond as well last year. Offensive line, we already talked about that. Running backs we were down last year, so I don't think I would have picked A&M over Texas in any way, shape, or form last year. I think Texas probably would have taken every position group last year, but times change. Okay, ultimately it'll have to be played out in the game. On the field to see actually which position group's going to win. But right now, for preview purposes, that's where we're at. Now, time to get over into the defense. We're almost ready for another blind preview, but first, let's look at this defensive line because this Colin Simmons and Cassius Howell mano a mano kind of situation. I'd love to see them go at each other if one was on offense and defense. But here's the thing: um, they're 1-2. They're 1-2, and right now Cassius is 1. Okay, this is where I'm going to get you a little more charged up on this one, Texas, because I'm gonna ride you a little bit on that week 10 sitch, right? Because there was this time going on where I don't know, one of your people said, "Hey, Texas has more sacks, more total sacks," and that was true. It was true. It was like 34 at the time, a few weeks ago, something like that. A&M had 32, and y'all had played 9 games, and we had played 8. And I just, casually pointed out that it makes a difference on how many games you've played, especially when you're looking at totals. Lo and behold, we play another game. Y'all have a bye somewhere along that way, and it evens out. And then we've got 34 and 34 because I think it actually happened within a week. Well, we still have another cupcake to play. Okay. And whereas I was fair about this when using this method for the read and arch comparison, because if you are going to play Arkansas, their defense is basically like playing a cupcake. So I think it should pad his stats. I think this week should do Arch some favors playing against that defense. Okay, um, but from a defensive standpoint, um, you're going to be going up against Taylor Green. It's not that I don't think y'all can't do well, but that's a pretty good offense. That's not a cupcake offense. Let's put it that way. They got Omega Blake that's playing over there, and Taylor Green's a really good quarterback. Petrino dialing up some plays, this and that. We'll see where their motivation is. I'm not sure, where to go with this. I know it's possible y'all could be without, I think, Anthony Hill, but we'll see. But when it comes to Cassius Howe, I mean, he hasn't played another cupcake that should pad his stats. Y'all have already gotten that out of the way. You got that out of the way 4th week. We're waiting till the 10th. We played better competition early. Our average competition was better early than y'all's were. So I'm expecting a bit of a bump this week. So with that said, Howell currently has 11.5 sacks, having played stiffer competition. That's generated 80 sack yards. Simmons has 9 sacks, and that's a solid number. That's a heck of a number. Nothing to slouch about. Howell's is just it's elite. It just is. Simmons has generated 39 sack yards. So hand it to him. Those are great numbers. We'll see if he can get Taylor Green down. He's difficult. I know Colin can do it, and he might get a few more this week. We'll see. I'm making this preview early because I'm going to be gone this next week, driving to Virginia. So I'm not going to be able to get this preview out. That's why I'm doing it early. Okay. You're probably wondering, you Maroon folks, where the Samford preview is. Well, the Samford preview looks like me praying for Samford. Okay, I've got that 52-3. So pray for Samford. Oops. Rings always getting busted here. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm at with the defensive line. When it comes to rush D, Texas is number 6. A&M is 38th. A&M is pretty hit or miss when it comes to the rush D. This has been a topic of conversation all year long. Texas has only given up 100 plus yards 3 times. It was versus Florida, Kentucky, and Georgia. Lost to Florida, near lost to Kentucky, and lost to Georgia. Makes a lot of sense, right? So, hey, Texas, I mean, I'm looking for something here. And in some ways, I'm not going to sit here and lean on Howell sacks to justify taking A&M's defensive line over y'all's at this point. Y'all are solid run defenders, okay? And we have our issues. So I'm going to take your defensive line at this point. Part of me wants to do that in some ways and trying to channel some sort of Elko psycho situation to like reverse psychology to get my guys to, play out of their mind because they've been disrespected. But I think it's just a fair thing to do at this point. Okay. Here's what I will note. Okay. Here's what I will note. A&M versus South Carolina, 40 yards rushing allowed in the second half. Okay. So this is my little Calto, right? That number does not include sack yards. It was 40 total rushing yards. All rushing yards added up, 40 yards given up in the second half. Minus the sack yardage, it was 11 yards rushing. That's how much sack yardage we have. Now, 4 sacks in the second half. There were 3 by defensive linemen, and 1 was by Will Lee, our DB. So here's what I'll do. I'll give the DB sack yardage back. And that means that we allowed 18 total rush yards in the second half versus South Carolina. So I am bringing this up. I am taking your defensive line, but I'm doing that with a warning. I have never quite been on the whole train of A&M's rush D is a problem. I think it's a problem for some specific reasons. I think it stems from our safeties. And I think it stems from some situations like I'm going to talk about with your linebackers here in just a second, with ours as well. But when they play the way they need to play, with juice, with energy, with drive, I think it's an elite rush D. So I am saying beware of that and how they can actually play when they go play. Okay, I've said my piece. Texas defensive line takes the win. I think we're 4-1 at this point. Okay, now blind resume time. Let's look at this. This is linebacker blind resume. One of these is York. One of these is Anthony Hill. Okay, I tried to line these up real nice so you could see that one does not have any fumble returns and one does not, and also does not have any interceptions. So the one with interceptions, 10 games played, 2 interceptions, 3 yards, 0 TDs based off of that, 1 fumble recovery from that same stat line, 21 yards from that fumble recovery. Tackles wise, one has a total of 79, the other has a total of 56. Okay. Tackles for loss. Tackles for loss. We got one's got 7, one's got 5.5. Sacks. One's got 1, and the other's got 4. You couldn't look at the sack yardage if you want. The miscellaneous defense is in there as well for passes broken up. Left side is probably winning on that one, passes broken up, but right side does have more QB hurries. Plus, the right side's also got 3 forced fumbles. So, which one you taking? Which one you taking? Don't take too much time. Just don't take too much time. I mean, if you're going to take one of these, you are going to take the right side. Question, who's the right side? Who do you think the right side is? Is it York or is it Hill? It is Hill. Hill's on the right side. So what I think this does, let me kind of give you my take on this. I think what that stat line proves is that Anthony Hill is the better athlete. I think he's the better athlete. I think he's going to get into more tackles. He's, you know, the interceptions I think shows this, the scoop and the score. Those kinds of plays I think prove that he is the better athlete. He's got probably more agility, some more quickness, more speed than York. Okay, so you thought I was going to be biased on this entire thing. You thought I was drinking maroon Kool-Aid the whole way. No. I'm giving that one to Anthony Hill. But this is a position group battle. This is not a one-on-one battle. This is not QBs. Linebackers is made up of at least 2. So backing up Hill, you've got Ty Anthony Smith and you've got Trey Moore, and I think LaFau is the other one that tend to play alongside him. I think if Hill doesn't go this weekend versus Arkansas, it's going to be Moore that steps in for him, is what I've read so far. Yeah, this is an interesting thought process because with York, you have a Sanford who's been pretty well lights out, I think, except for probably one game, and Scooby, who's good but been injured for probably too much of the season to really talk too much about is a major factor. What I'll say is this: circling back to York, whereas he doesn't quite have all the stat line that's there. He's a field general. He's a field general. He is a leader by example. He's a vocal leader. He sets that, he runs that defense. He is the quarterback of that defense. Now, whenever I watch tape, Texas, you can tell me if I'm wrong. You feel free to correct me. I haven't seen every single game, every single snap. I've seen a fair amount, and I'm not quite seeing that same characteristic from Anthony Hill. I almost thought I saw that more from Moore whenever I saw him on the field than I did from Anthony Hill. So what I'm going to tell you is this: York is real smart. He's very smart. He is very driven, and he is big time into film study and all things of that nature. So, and I think that plays a big role in him just from a leadership standpoint. You know, that's a lot of times in your linebacking core. So I think it's part of it's a big piece of what goes into deciding something like this. So I am going to use this as a way to say, yeah, Anthony Hill takes it on paper for sure. From a leadership standpoint, from a guidance standpoint, I think you would give that to York. From everything I've seen on field, I would give that to York. Now, maybe you're going to say, okay, it's 1-1. So how are you going to break that tie? That's a tough one. That's a tough one. So what I would do at this point is I would probably go to the film. I'd watch each one of them's last game, and I did, and I did. So y'all played Georgia, we played South Carolina, and we played like dog in the first half. That has to be recognized. And York has had some problems with tackling throughout the season, although not this particular game, um, and especially not in the second half. Hill, on the other hand, I've got a few issues with from what I've seen, especially with the way he works with LaFau and Ty Anthony Smith. I don't see the communication there on the field. I see a thought process that looks like see ball, get ball. That's what it looks like to me. See ball, get ball. Not, hey, I know where my defensive lineman is going. I know where my counterpart is going. And so, based off of this, I'm not going to just go towards the ball. I'm going to go towards this other gap because I need to fill that. That looked like a pretty significant issue in the Georgia game to me. It didn't look like the two linebackers were on the same page for a number of plays. I think you're. I don't think you're going to see that so much from our group. Certainly, they can have, and they have had their issues as well. No defense is perfect, but I saw a lot of that when I watched Georgia. When I watched y'all play Georgia, there was too much of it, and they really just gashed you a lot. It was them looking like they're going to run right between the guards, and they bounce it outside between the guard and the tackle. And Smith and Hill are kind of crashing in the middle when like it's already crowded there. Your two D tackles, they're already there, and you need to be playing outside, and you don't, and there's a huge gap there, and Georgia just they bust an 8 or 9 yard run. So that was not uncommon in that game. So I mean, look, I think I'm. I mean, I'm honestly, I'm searching for a reason. I want to give it to A&M. I believe in our linebacking group. I believe in the way Sanford's played, and I believe in the way that York has run this defense. So I'm gonna do it. Yeah, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna let A&M's gonna take that. Okay, that's the way it is. So, but Anthony Hill is the better athlete, 100%, no doubt. All right, moving on. Two more to go. Cornerbacks and special teams. Okay, cornerbacks. Cornerbacks. Pass D for Texas is 94th. A&M is 38th. Completion percentage for Texas's opposing QBs is an average of 65%. The last three games, Texas opponents' QBs have averaged 71%. 71%, 325 yards and 12 TDs. Man, that 71% is a big number. That's a massive number. Texas is 131st in the nation versus conference opponents in passing D. A&M's 12th. It's 185 yards to 290 yards given up. Flip them, as a matter of fact. Got them backwards. Texas is giving up 290 yards per game. A&M's giving up 185. That's a big difference. That's a very big difference. Pretty good battle, though, I think, between Malik Muhammad and McDonald. Kind of thinking about them going versus Ricks and Lee. Obviously, it's not a head-to-head, but it's position versus position. I like the two Texas DBs. I don't know why. Well, and I say that, but they have been effective, right? They honestly they have, and I don't know if they've gotten enough talk about it, but all four of these DBs are in the top 25 in the SEC. Top 25 DBs in the SEC. Texas does firmly claim the INT battle in this situation too. They've got 4 interceptions on the year. A&M's DBs have none. However, A&M's guys have defended and broken up 22 passes this year. Texas has done 18. Not a lot of difference right there. I'm not gonna try and push the 4 a whole lot. the ints are kind of big. The ints weigh kind of big. If you're going to look at this and try and make a case, because there's a pretty stark difference between the ratings on the pass D, right? 94th versus 38. And then you look at in conference play, it gets pretty nasty. That's a pretty big deal. If you're going to flip a game, ints are the way to do it. So 4 ints to 0, do you feel like that should be a trumping factor in this particular battle? It kind of feels that way, doesn't it? Let's be honest. And I'm just giving just a little bit of time to think through this, y'all. But here's where I'm at with it. INTs they're not consistent. They're not a consistent piece of the game. Those rankings are consistent. That's what these teams have done through 11 games, 4 INTs. Whereas I think if something like that happens, this is a way that Texas can manage to get themselves into the game, come out with a W by flipping the field with an INT, stopping a drive, something like that. Those can definitely play, but they're not consistent enough for me to say, yeah, I'm going to count on that to take over this particular position group. So with that, I'm going to give it to A&M. Okay, the production standpoint is for me is too overwhelming. I think it's a decent one to argue in the comments about. I do. So you've got a few extra things. Of course, I'm only giving you 5 out of like probably 20 different argument points that you can go. I'm doing my darndest not to cherry pick anything, just to, suit A&M. That would be devastating for my viewership because I don't want to lead them astray. But I think it's a fair put. Okay, so taking A&M. Now, special teams. Special teams. The thought of Niblet and KC Concepcion being on the same field is palpable. That this is there. I mean, honestly, you think about the potential punt returns that these two could have, and it's something else. Special teams could play a significant role in this game. If Niblet returns one and KC doesn't, or vice versa, these are all possible backbreaker type situations, right? I mean, these things break break other teams when they think they've got a little bit of momentum. They punt it down. The other guy returns it down to the 5, or worse for them, a touchdown, and it just huge momentum grabber, huge. Between Niblet and KC, I'm not prepared to take either one of those. Niblet is fantastic, and KC is dynamic. Neither one of those are. Any team would love to have either one of these guys returning punts. Fair enough. Okay. Next, though, I want to push this to place kicking, Bond versus Shipley, and I'm sure every A&M person knows exactly where I'm going to go with this. I think, as expected, and another point for authenticity on this. But this is if this battle was by itself, it's 100% going to Shipley. Here's the numbers. Bond is converting 63% of his field goals. Shipley is 78%. That's night and day to me, and it's very concerning. It's very concerning for me. We saw the 2 misses versus South Carolina, and I think A&M does not. Our fans do not want this to come down in any way, shape, or form to a field goal. We already have PTSD from 2011. We don't like it, and here we are. We don't have a Randy Bullock in the stable right now. I love Bond, but man, the guy is just he missed a 28-yarder last week. This can't happen. It can't happen. I mean, we won by 1 point. We make both of the field goals, and we win by a touchdown. And the last quarter is not sweating so much after we come back. So that's definitely a Texas situation right there. Just looking at place kicking, right? Kickoffs as well. I don't know that there was a huge discerning factor for kickoffs in one way or the other as I looked at it. So I think I'll kind of call that a bit of a wash as well. But something worth noting is that Texas, I think, all year long has only managed something like 14 touchbacks, and that seemed a little odd to me. We have some guys that can return the ball and definitely can get loose. Although we haven't got a lot of great yardage all year long off the kickoff. So that somewhat concerns me for us as well, that we may find ourselves not getting past the 20 on these. And I don't want that either. So I don't know. But only 14, whereas A&M is probably had somewhere, I mean, it was like triple that. Like um, somewhere in the neighborhood of 42 or something like that was ours. Yeah. So I don't know. Whatever it's got to do to keep Niblet from getting the ball, that's a good thing. That needs to happen. Whatever happens, whatever happens, we better not kick it to Niblet. Okay, I'm gonna leave it at that. Special teams goes to Texas. I think pretty well, hands down. They're more consistent across the board in all phases there, and I don't think the kickoff situation that I mentioned is actually going to play that big a part in the game, unless we kick it to Niblet and then let him run it out. That could be bad, very bad. So overall, we got what, eight positions that we've reviewed. I think I gave, let's see, I gave special teams to Texas. I gave defensive line to Texas, and I gave DBs to A&M, linebackers to A&M, and everything on offense to A&M. So it ended up being 6-2. Okay, okay. I think I've done that fairly. I do. So let's talk about the keys. And how does Texas win this game? Texas, if you want to win this game, you've got to get the running game going. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You've seen the stats. Any game that you were in that you won, you ran for 100 plus yards. And you're going to have to run that ball, and you're going to have to commit to it, because you're going to have to do something to get Arch a little bit more time. You can't be one dimensional on this, in my opinion. And right now, it doesn't look good in that way. 23 yards versus Georgia, when they can just kind of sit back, wait on the pass, keep everything in front of them, wait for you to make a few mistakes, pressure Arch just a little bit, and he throws a little wild wildy to the whichever side. And because he's a little sidearmed on it, it tends to flare off on him a little bit. And that's what I was referring to earlier. And with just a little bit of pressure, he becomes a little bit inaccurate, especially on some of those just a little bit longer throws. You saw the one where I think it was Wingo that did the crossing route versus Georgia early on. He whipped it in there to him. It was a really good run route, but it was only about a 10, 12 yard route. It doesn't really have too big of a deal when it comes to that type of yardage. But when he's not planting and throwing, he's kind of doing this number right over here. It has a tendency just to flare off a little bit. It's not big, it's not much, but when the game's close like this, not in points, but when the coverage is, it needs to be there. It needs to be right on target. And there was just a few times that he wasn't there. Just call it a handful, and it makes a difference, especially after you've run the ball and got stuffed, and then you got an incompletion, and you're looking at some type of 3rd and 9, 3rd and 8, or worse. Something worth mentioning: penalties. Texas is one of the most penalized teams in the country. They need to play a clean game. Texas wants to win, need to play a clean game. They need to let us have the penalties. We're on their field, we're on their turf. One of the things they did last year was they scored and they just shut our crowd down. If we can do that to them, it'd be really well received for us. But they need to get that crowd going so they can get the penalties from us and not from themselves. A clean game would go a long way. And turnovers, that's cliche as it gets, but as I mentioned, that one strength that they've got, it's definitely an area that they could exploit versus us. Not to mention, Marcel Reed has been turnover prone. He has. He had at least 2 turnovers versus South Carolina, and it's almost been pretty much an average that throughout the year. Definitely kind of comes in a couple of spurts here and there, but it's something that he's been doing. It matches up well with Texas's strength, and they need to convert on those if the opportunities come up. So get the turnovers, stop us on a few of those drives, turn them into points, and you got yourself a game, get yourself a lead. And hey, once you've got yourself a lead, who knows what can happen, right? It's a rivalry game, right? So how does A&M win? I think we've got to put arch in some confusing situations. I think that's the best way to kind of get him uncomfortable so that he's, throwing the ball little wild places he doesn't really want to go with it. Yeah, I think getting to him would be pretty big. So I would like to actually see some interesting looks on earlier downs. We were really good about doing it on third down, but I think throwing some different looks at him would go a long way to confusing him. We'll see. Okay. For A&M, also keeping everything in front of us and just playing downhill. Like I said, Texas's game plan is a lot of short yardage throw. That's why their yards per attempt are significantly lower than A&M's. And just taking advantage of the one-dimensional game that Texas seems to be playing right now, I think is a big deal that needs to be a big part of the game plan. We need to continue stopping the run like most every other team has done. We need to be on our game there so that we can allow our DBs to work on that short yardage game. And tackling. Tackling's been part of our weakness, so I've got to mention that because that's a big deal. How Texas makes their money. You looked at the Vanderbilt game, and I'd almost say if Vanderbilt had made half the tackles that they missed, and you look at the Georgia game, Georgia missed 2 tackles all game. If Vanderbilt had missed 2 tackles, or even if they had only missed 4 tackles, they win that game. Vandy lost that game because they couldn't tackle. They're just out of position. I don't know what their deal was. Didn't play with any juice. Too many missed tackles. They make those tackles. Again, Vandy wins that game. My opinion. Argue with a wall. Okay, and we need to bring the juice. We need to bring the energy. We need to get that drive going. Start fast. Sark is an excellent scripter. And a lot of times what defenses want to do is they want to come out and they want to kind of just sit back just a little bit. I think he definitely enjoys that being the case with defenses waiting to, kind of see what the offense is going to come out and do, playing a little lax. And he scripts stuff up that just is dynamite. So getting started on him quick and early, I think is a big deal. So that I don't want to let Texas get out ahead. Okay, that's a huge strength of his, and if we can go ahead and get into our game plan early, I think it'll go a long way. Because it seems to take us a little while to get comfortable and get settled. So tackle, 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 and bring the juice, baby. Bring the juice. So final prediction. What am I going to do here, y'all? What am I going to do here? I mean, with that position group situation and everything, I mean, it goes to A&M. There's obviously more to this game than that. It's a rivalry game. Um, big game, big game. It means a lot to A&M. It really does. But it means a lot to Texas too. I don't think I think both teams are going to come in ready to play. And I think A&M is going to need to bring the juice. This is a big, 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 big opportunity for A&M. So I'm going to take A&M, and I'm going to take A&M 27. God, no, I don't even know if I can do that. If I take them 27, that means there's 2 field goals. Huh. Wouldn't that be something? So yeah, I think that sounds about right. We'll probably have at least 1 missed, 3 touchdowns, 2 field goals, get stopped a couple times for field goals. So I'll go 27, 27, 27-20. No. Let's try that again. No, yeah, 27-20. That sounds really good to me. I think that sounds like Texas getting 2 touchdowns and 2 field goals as well. 27-20. A&M just ends up with essentially one more touchdown, right? So that's what I'll do. That's what I'll do, y'all. A&M 27-20. A&M's going to the playoff either way. Texas, good luck to you. Hope you lose, though. Not going to lie. And with that being said, we'll see you on Saturday. We'll see you the Saturday afterwards. I'll be traveling. I'll maybe try and give you some final thoughts somewhere with my phone out. But other than that, enjoy this time. And that's all I got, y'all. Thanks and gig 'em.